Hi, what's up, guys? How are you, and how have all of you been? Nice to be here with you once again. Well, coming straight to the point, today's topic is MNCs, which means multinational companies or multinational corporations, versus local Indian companies. So, today I'm just going to give you my comparison about multinational companies and just local Indian companies. And when I say multinational, it does not mean that those companies are not Indian. There are multinational companies which are Indian, such as Tech Mahindra and Tata Motors, etc. This one MNC versus local Indian companies. What I mean to say is that local Indian companies is just these companies which are so far only within India, and MNC means which are in India and in many other countries. So I'm going to do a comparison based on my experience so far, because I have worked in both local and MNC companies. Okay, so before any casual talks, coming straight to the point, first let's compare the salary and the package. When you compare the salary and the package for an MNC versus a local Indian company, in an MNC normally the salary and the package is quite high. Let's say, for example, a beginner who is who is like a diploma holder in an MNC, a diploma holder, at least he or she can get a starting salary of 20 to 25k, 20 to 25,000 rupees per month in an MNC, in a multinational company. Even just for a fresher, a starting diploma holder, he or she can earn 20 to 25,000 rupees per month from the start as a fresher. Whereas in a local Indian company, it will be relatively lower. Like, for example, in a local Indian company, that for freshers the starting salary can be starting somewhere from even 10,000 to 15,000 rupees. And even in this local Indian companies, there are voice BPO and non-voice BPO. So for non-voice, it is even lower. They can get just paid 8 or even 9,000 rupees per month for non-voice. But then however, for voice process, in a local Indian company, they can get at least starting from 12 to 15,000 rupees. Okay, so this is the salary package comparison. Now, comparing the working environment. When you compare the working environment in an MNC versus a local Indian company, the working environment in a local Indian company, it is generally more noisy. It is whenever they do those sales department and all, each time they get a sale, they'll be oh, we made a sale, hooray, hooray, and they'll be they'll start clapping their hands. I mean, one person makes a sale and the entire office floor starts clapping their hands and whistling and making cheers, etc. So basically, the working environment in a local Indian company is much more noisier as compared to an MNC, as compared to a multinational company. In an MNC, which means in a multinational company, noise is not there too much. Even, of course, every company is based on profit making, but then even in an MNC, whenever a sales, whenever someone, or let's say a group of people makes reaches their sales target, well, they will just one person, let's say, one team leader will come, and he or she will just make an announcement and go, that's all. But then there will not be this loud clapping and whistling, unlike in the local Indian companies. So this is the working environment. However, those people who like the noisy environment, they may enjoy the working environment in a local Indian company. But however, people like me, for example, like me, I enjoy the working environment of an MNC, which means I enjoy the working environment of a multinational company, where it is not at all too noisy. and where there is like more calmness, and like I can focus more on my work. So basically I enjoy the working environment of an MNC. However, I mean like, because I've worked in an MNC and local Indian company, and so therefore I'm just giving you examples. I've worked in two MNCs and I've worked in a number of local Indian companies. So I'm just giving you my comparison based on my experience and my thoughts and my opinions. Okay, let's move on. Coming to the lifestyle comparison, if you compare the lifestyle in in a local Indian company versus the lifestyle of a MNC, the local Indian company, they're like the relationship between the employee and the boss, it's like it's like too much formal. I mean like it's there are like, in fact there are more formalities in local Indian companies as compared to an MNC, because in like local Indian companies, normally all their employees will call all the employees will call the seniors as like sir, ma'am, madam, good morning sir, good afternoon sir, good evening sir, good evening madam, good afternoon madam, good afternoon ma'am. I mean like they use these words called sir, ma'am and madam too much in in these local Indian companies. Whereas in an MNC, normally it will like it will be like more like they I mean there are formalities of course, but generally in MNCs, the way of speaking, greeting, and like and like mingling with each other, it's like more informal. I mean like even like when I used to work in my previous MNC company, my team leader, she was a lady. She would tell me, Samay sir, please don't call me ma'am, call me by my name. Okay, so I mean like of course I'm not going to mention anyone's name over here, but yeah. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is, in MNCs, in multinational companies, generally even like all the team leaders, all the higher authorities, and like all the bosses, and the HR, everyone, they will actually like they don't like being called as sir or ma'am or madam. They will treat employees as their own friends. They will treat employees so much like friends, and like brothers and sisters, and like they will like say, please call us by our name. I'm just giving you a random name. For example, let's say, this is just a random name I'm picking. Let's say for example, my team leader's name is, let's say, Siddhant. So my team leader would never want me to call him as Sir Siddhant. He will always tell me, Samay sir, please call me Siddhant. Treat me as your friend, not as your boss. So this I really like in this, and so this I really like and appreciate in the in the lifestyle of the MNC companies. So in MNC company, I mean like there is no I mean barely we use words like sir, ma'am and madam, unlike in local Indian companies. In local Indian companies, it is like you can say more of like like narrow minded. I mean like the relationship between employee and the boss is like the boss is like a king, whereas the employee is like a servant. So like this is the relationship. Whereas in an MNC, the relationship between employees and bosses are like are like friends and family members. Okay, so this is the lifestyle comparison between MNC and local Indian companies. Now coming to the comparison of, let's say we make some mistakes. I mean we all do make mistakes. Let's say we make some mistake in our work. So how is the scolding type in a local Indian company versus in a multinational company? I mean let's say in a local Indian company, if you make any mistake, I mean like these bosses in the local Indian companies, I mean literally they'll just come. I mean let's say there are like many people working on a floor. The team leader or a boss, he or she will come to your seat, and they will start yelling at you at your place itself. And like when they start yelling and scolding you at your place, the entire office, the entire floor, I mean they will start like looking at you and your boss who is scolding you. So like this is this I felt very like wrong and bad. I mean like of course, I mean no one has scolded me. Okay, I'm not telling that someone has scolded me. I mean even like when I was working in when I used to work in the local Indian companies before, I mean no boss have ever scolded me. But I mean, like I've seen, like I've seen other employees being scolded by the boss. Like literally, I mean, like once, like one of my colleagues, he made some blunder in his work. So what happened? The team leader came. My colleague's place was just like next to my seat. So the team leader, he just came to my employee at his seat, and the team leader, he started yelling so loudly at my colleague, because I mean, of course, I mean, okay, uh, my colleague who is an employee, he has made some blunders, okay, but I mean, the team leader and the boss, they're just like coming to his place, and they're they're like shouting at the top of their voice, they're like yelling and screaming at him. I mean, they're literally yelling and screaming at him in front of the entire office. Everyone, every employee is they're standing up from their place, and they're looking at what's happening. So this thing is very, I mean, like, what can I say? Very much unprofessional from the bosses of the local Indian companies. But whereas, let's say in an MNC, let's say in a multinational company, this is not how they do. In a multinational company, let's say someone makes a mistake, and let's say the boss wants to scold that employee. What will that boss do? That boss will he will send someone to go and call that employee to a room, and that room, it will be soundproof. I mean, let's say it is like a big conference room. Let's say a group of people, they have made some mistakes, or let's say they have made some blunders. Those people, they will be called into this big conference room, and let's say all the other employees, they are working outside, and these few employees, they'll be called inside this big conference room, and then and once they come into this conference room, they will close the door, and that room will be soundproof, which means whatever we discuss in that room, it will not be heard to the employees sitting outside. So basically, in the MNCs, in multinational companies, the bosses, they will call their employees to their they will call their employees to this big conference room, and then in that conference room, they will inform the employees about the mistakes which they have done, and sometimes even they will scold. And also, of course, I mean, what do you say, even when the bosses scold the employees in the multinational companies, they scold in a very professional way. They don't use vulgar language, and they don't yell on the top of their voice, unlike in local Indian companies. In the MNCs, the bosses, they will they will rather focus on the areas of improvement. Even one more thing, guys, I wanted to mention this. I mean, whenever I went for a job interview in a local Indian company, that person taking my interview, he or she, they never they always used to ask me, okay Samay sir, please explain to me what are your strengths and weaknesses. So basically, in local Indian companies, they will mention, okay, please explain to us what are your strengths and weaknesses. Whereas, however, in MNCs, when it comes to the multinational companies, the person taking the job interview, they have never asked me, what are your strengths and weaknesses. Rather, they have asked me, what are my strengths and areas of improvement. So this is one very professional thing which I really admire about the multinational companies. In multinational companies, they don't say explain to us your weaknesses. Rather, in place of weakness or weaknesses, they will ask you, please explain what are your areas of improvement. What are the areas which you feel you need to improve on? So this is very, very amazing and professional about the multinational companies. So of course, I mean, benefits and strengths, they will ask you directly, okay, what are your strengths, what are your what are our good qualities and what are our strengths. These questions they will ask directly, they will ask straightforwardly in the job interviews in the multinational companies. But when it comes to talking about your weaknesses, they will never use the word weakness they never use the word weakness in multinational companies. They will always say, please explain to us your areas of improvement. And this is very amazing and very professional about the multinational companies. Yeah, so as I was coming to that, so like in the multinational companies, whenever the bosses scold their employees, they will scold in a very professional way, and they will not use they will not use vulgar language and everything, unlike in local Indian companies. In the local Indian companies, all the whenever the bosses scold the employees, first of all the bosses come to the bosses will start yelling at the employees in they will start yelling at the employee in front of the entire office. That is the first unprofessional thing, by the way. And secondly, uh, uh, along with screaming, along with yelling and screaming at the top of their voice, they will also use they will use foul languages and vulgar languages. So basically, local Indian companies, they are pretty much unprofessional as compared to the multinational companies. So as I told you, in multinational companies, whatever they scold, they will scold professionally. They will not use vulgar language. Of course, they will speak firmly to you. They will raise their voice to a certain extent, and they will never use foul language. They will never use any they will never use any profanities, and they will never use any profanities and foul languages and vulgar languages, unlike in the local Indian companies. And over that, thirdly, whatever they are scolding you about, they will do it inside a conference room, where no other employees can listen what is happening inside. So so when it comes to the scolding comparison, multinational companies, they do it in a very very professional way as compared to the local Indian companies. In local Indian companies, the scolding is horrible and terrible and miserable. But whereas in MNCs, they are very professional. Okay, so this is the comparison for scolding. Coming to the next comparison, parties. Every company, every office, they will have their parties and everything. Whereas in local Indian companies, whenever there is a party or something, I worked in, as I mentioned to you, I worked in a few local Indian companies. Whenever there was some, whenever there was some annual party or something, they would we would celebrate it in the office itself. There'd be a cake cutting and distributing of sweets, distributing biscuits and cool drinks. All these things would happen in the office itself. Whereas in multinational companies, whenever there is some annual party, or let's say some annual function, the company, our bosses, they will they will take all the employees to a 5-star hotel. Even before, when I was working in Chennai, I was working in this multinational company, and there, once we had this annual party, and for that annual party, we actually went to a very grand 5-star hotel called ITC Grand Chola. In Chennai, there is one very famous 5-star hotel known as ITC Grand Chola. So ITC Grand Chola is a very fine 5-star hotel in Chennai. So for our annual parties, they would take us to this 5-star hotel, and make us do lot of things. There would be Indian dance, Western dance, folk dance, even some Arabic dance. It was the parties the parties given by multinational companies. It is full of life. You get totally, you feel you will enjoy the parties, and it will be full of life. And they will take you out, take you out to 5-star hotels, 6-star hotels, whenever there is some annual party. So this is one thing that I really love. This is another thing that I really love about multinational companies. Doing parties in 5-star hotels and 6-star hotels, and full of life. You never feel bored. So even when it comes to parties, it's not that the parties in local Indian companies are not good. Even in the local Indian companies, parties, they are good. They are okay, fun. They are fun and exciting to a certain extent, and ultimately, all those parties, they just happen within the office itself, not anywhere outside. But whereas in MNC companies, they literally they take us to they take us to 5-star hotels and 6-star hotels, and they literally full of music, amazing food, and literally we will enjoy our lives to the fullest. So when it comes to parties, I totally enjoy the party style of MNCs, of multinational companies. Now coming to the work timings and days comparison. I mean, let's say the work timings. In local Indian companies, most of them which I have worked, they are like, always like day shift. It will be like, like let's say from morning 9 to evening 6, or let's say from morning 9 to evening 6:30. So for local Indian companies, normally it is like, it is like a day shift. It is not like, evening or night shift. It is always compulsorily a day shift. At least, I mean there may be some Indian companies, some local Indian companies which do allow, let's say, which do allow night shifts. But however, the most local Indian companies where I have worked, they are like, always like, day shift only. None of them are like, night shift. But whereas when it comes to, let's say, when it comes to multinational companies, let's say like, if you're working for a US department, you get to work like, night shifts. And not only that, along with evening and night shifts, in, let's say, in multinational companies, you also get 2 days off a week. So let's say if you're working for a US department, or let's say you're working for an Australian department, in multinational companies, like, you will get to work from Monday to Friday, and then like, Saturday and Sunday are holidays for us. But whereas in local Indian companies, it is like, compulsorily day shift. And not only that, they'll also like, make you work from Monday to Saturday, and only Sunday will be a holiday for us. So basically in local Indian companies, we have to work 6 days a week with just, 1 day off, and that too compulsorily day shift. Whereas in multinational companies, like, you can get like, I mean, we have option. We can choose day shift, or we can even choose night shift. But the main thing is whether we do day shift or night shift. In multinational companies, along with having the option to do day shift or night shift, we also can get 2 days off. And so basically we have to work 5 days, Monday to Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday we can get holiday. So this is another advantage in multinational companies. Now coming to like, this holidays comparison. When it comes to holidays, let's say in multinational, I'm not talking about just Saturday and Sunday. Let's say in multinational companies, let's say if you're working for like, if you're working for a US department, you can also get all the holidays which are, all the holidays that are all the holidays which applies to US. We can also get all those holidays. Let's say for example, I was working in this US department in this multinational company, and so like along with Saturdays and Sundays, we would get like, we would get like 2-3 days of Christmas holidays. We would get holidays for, this birthday of Martin Luther King, and also we would get like holiday for, like many other festivals, and many other, even for Halloween, Christmas, Valentine's Day. We would get holidays for all these special days, for all these special days that are celebrated in the US. So this is another main advantage in multinational companies. Whereas let's say in local Indian companies, along with Sundays, you only get holiday for New Year and 15th of August. That is like, our Independence Day. So in local Indian companies, we get holidays only on Sundays, and on the New Year, and on the Independence Day. But whereas let's say in multinational companies, we can get holidays for, Martin Luther King, Valentine's Day, Christmas holidays, and like, even Halloween holidays, and even like, over that we get Saturday and Sunday off. So this is the one of the greatest advantages of working in a multinational company. Now coming to the leaves and incentives. Let's say, in local Indian companies, especially like when it comes to BPO companies and KPO companies, most of the employees, they can hardly take leave. They usually never give any leaves, unless like, let's say the person is like, has got some serious medical condition or whatever. The local Indian companies, they hardly give any leaves to their employees. So basically, and also even the incentives, they are like, like a very, they're like very less, roughly like, just with additional 200 or 300 rupees they will get, incentives. So but whereas when it comes to multinational companies, I mean, even for a very small reason, if the employee requests, he or she will be granted leaves. He or she can, can take, can take official leaves for various reasons, unlike in local Indian companies. So multinational companies, they also provide leaves to their employees. Like for whatever reason. And even the incentives, when it comes to the incentives, the multinational companies, they know, their bonuses and incentives are really very high. Let's say for example, someone is earning a salary of 50,000 rupees, and for incentive, that person, he can get another 40,000 rupees as incentive. So 50,000 plus 40,000, so an employee can get up to 90,000 rupees, including the incentives. 90,000 rupees, incentives an employee can get in a multinational company. Now coming last, the last point, safety comparison. When it comes to the safety comparison, in multinational companies, the company always provides, a company vehicle, let's say a company cab, or let's say a company vehicle to its employees. But whereas in local Indian companies, I mean, it's not like that. I mean, most of the local Indian companies, most of the employees, they either come by bus or by taxi or by auto or by metro train. So basically, the local Indian companies, very rarely they provide, very rarely they provide the transport from the company. But whereas that is not the case with multinational companies. In multinational companies, the company will provide them with cab, or sometimes like the company will also give their employees the company vehicle for them to use, as long as they're working in their company. So even when it comes to the, like, let's say safety, let's say for example, someone is doing night shift. Let's say someone is like, starting their work at 8:30 p.m. at night, and then they are like finishing their work, let's say in the morning by 5:30. Or let's say someone, they start work at 5:30 p.m. in the evening, and then they are like finishing their work at 2:30 a.m. at midnight. So the MNC companies, they will provide the company vehicles for their employees to reach home safely. But whereas this is not the case with local Indian companies. So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel, and I will keep posting new videos. So right now, I've actually come from outside, and I thought of making this video. Now I need to have my lunch. I'm actually very hungry right now. I need to have my lunch. So I'll be ending this video now. So yeah, I just wanted to let you all know that this is the comparison of a multinational company and a local Indian company. Yeah, and guys, one more thing. Sorry, I totally forgot to inform you. There is one more comparison. In local Indian companies, let's say for example, let's say, just give an example, 100 people come for job interview. Out of 100 people, like 97 or 98 people, they will get the job, because especially these BPO and these call center and these KPO jobs. I mean, let's say how many people come, 90 to 95% of the people who come for job interview, they just get the job straight away. But whereas this is not the case in multinational companies. In multinational companies, let's say for example, 1,000 people have come for a position. Out of the 1,000 people, only 10 or 20 people, you heard me right, only 10 or 20 people out of 1,000 people will be selected for the job in multinational companies. So this is the final comparison. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is, if you want to work in multinational companies, you need to have high and good qualification, and you need to have good employable skills in you. Yes, you heard me right. Good employable skills, good qualification, and high qualification if you want to work in multinational companies. So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching this video. I will end this video now, and I will definitely make more videos sooner. So thank you, guys. Take care and have a nice day. See you.